Welcome everyone. So I'm going to be demoing the new PostgreSQL extension from Microsoft for VS Code. Now this extension just dropped like 3 days ago, just in time for the conference, and we haven't even formally announced it yet. So I am actually not even allowed to post on social media, but all of you could. It's really super new, and I'm pretty excited about it because the team worked really hard and did a lot of usability studies in order to figure out what developers wanted and then like improve the extension based off that. But they're still taking lots of feedback, so we encourage you to try this out. If you have any feedback, there's a public issue tracker here, and so this is where you can file all your issues, and the team will be very responsive. As you see, currently 0 issues, so you could be the first to file an issue in this public issue tracker. So I'm going to be demoing many different ways that you can use it. So here I've got it installed already in this VS Code, and I've got a few different data, server connections set up here. Some of these are local ones that I actually created using the extension. So it makes it super easy to make a Docker-based Postgres container locally. And then one of them is an Azure one, which I'm connecting to an Azure server. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one here, right? So here I can explore the servers, expand them. I can take a look at the schemas inside and then expand, those and look at the tables, right? So this is the kind of thing you'd expect just from the, basic navigation. I can, click on this and say, oh, I want to connect with PGSQL, and then it'll just, go ahead and make the query here. And then I'm inside here, and now I can, look at some stuff here. Let's see. DT sales, is that? I'm actually not that good at PGSQL. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Then, yeah, we're going to show the Copilot mode. Yeah, so normally I don't use the PGSQL because we have this nice like Copilot mode. All right, so that was PGSQL. Now what's really cool is that we can do visualize schema. And this does this visualization here where we can go and like look at all the different things and like see how they're connected. We're going to see like, oh yeah, so this is like a foreign key pointing to this over here, and this points over there. And you can browse all around and see how your data is laid out and how it all connects to each other here. And tons of tables in this one. The next thing we want to do is obviously do a SQL query, right? So we say, okay, we're going to do a new query, right? So I'm going to, select, okay, first name, last name, city, and then here's my schema. Here we do get some autocomplete, right? So we can select this view here. We can run that, and we'll get the result down here. And what I really like about the results view is that there's these export options, right? So we could export as CSV, we could export as JSON, and we could export to Excel, right? And so, typically I would use the like save as CSV and be like, okay, sales, and then I can look through all that data there. So that's pretty cool. We can always see our query history here. So you can see like some of the stuff I do fails. That's okay. I'm okay with failure in life. But we can go through and see everything that we've done with the extension, so we don't have to worry about forgetting any query that happened in case there's like a really complex query, and we'll do some more complex queries. So talking about that, let's do a little GitHub Copilot integration. So what's really nice, people ask me like, oh, what's the difference between this extension and some of the other extensions? This is all the functionality I've shown so far is what you can get out of it, like a lot of the existing database extensions, but this one also has very tight integration with GitHub Copilot, which we can use in a few different ways. So first we can just right click and say chat with this database, right? And so it says, okay, we're connected, right? So I'm going to be like, actually, I'm just going to grab my question because it's like really complicated. And here we go. There we go. Okay. All right. So it's a film database, and we're trying to get it to calculate the total revenue. We also want to do some group by and get the formatting out. So we can both get it to come up with the queries and then also answer things based on the data. So if you wanted to actually have it do a little data analytics reflection, it can do that too, because of course it is an LLM. So it's doing a combination of coming up with those queries and then looking at them. So here, let me go ahead and look at, open the query. Okay, so this is where query history is really helpful, because every query that the Copilot LLM comes up with is going to end up in your query history. And you can actually see also which model wrote it. So you might like play around with different models, see whether one of them is better at writing SQL queries than others. And here you can actually look at the query. Like, this is a fairly complicated query. I'm glad I didn't have to like type that from scratch, you know, especially here on stage in front of all you. And then we can look at the results. So these are, it all nicely formatted them and, you know, calculated all these sums. And then it also shared some observations there. So that's pretty helpful. But now, of course, GitHub Copilot has agent mode. So let's check out how we could use this in agent mode. So I'm gonna go and pick a different database for agent mode. So I've also got a local one that has PostGIS set up on it so that we could do, you know, do more stuff with geographic data. So with this one, I'm just gonna make sure that that's there. All right, and let me close some things. Okay, so this time I'm gonna switch to agent mode. And I'm not going to at PGSQL. I'm just in agent mode. So agent mode knows that it has PGSQL tools that it can call if it thinks it's appropriate. So the first thing I want is for it to make a new database. So let's say make an observations database in, let me make that bigger, in the local PostGIS ARM server. Okay, so it is working on it. Let's see what it comes up with. All right, so it says connecting to the server. So here it's using a tool from the extension, and you can you expand it. You can see what, you know, arguments it does. You can see the results. So that one worked. Now it's creating the database. So we can see everything that it's doing there. And it said it executed successfully. So that's good. Now it's connecting and it's enabling PostGIS. That's funny. I didn't ask it to do that, but I probably realized that I probably wanted that. I think it's already enabled. It's probably going to get a message. Okay, yeah, maybe it needed enabling. Okay. Oh, because we had to do it on each database. I forgot you enable on the database level. Yeah. See, it remembered for me. All right. And there. So it did it. It made a new database. It connected and then enabled the extension, right? So we can do all those steps. Now let's have it actually populate that database with some data. So I have some data locally that I pulled from iNaturalist, which is a citizen science site. So I'm going to say like, okay, take the data in file and use it to make a table in the observations database called Pennsylvania. These are all Pennsylvanian spottings of insects. That's what I downloaded. Very specific, I know. Otherwise, the problem is I was like downloading, like the files were like way too big. Okay, so it's gonna look at the CSV and see the structure of the file. And anytime it's like asking me to continue, I can always tell it to always accept, right? Like every time in Copilot when you're agent mode, if there's like a thing it wants to do, you can just say, oh, you're always allowed to do that, right? But the first time it ever does any particular type of command, it will say, hey, do you want to do this? And you can decide. So, okay, it found, it described, it figured out what was in that CSV. I can show you the CSV here. So it's, looked at it, figured out the columns. It says it's creating a table. It also decided to add a geometry column for the latitude longitude coordinates. Geometry is a special kind of column that you can use when you're doing PostGIS, which can make your geographic queries be more efficient. And so it's taking care, and it did a bulk load of the CSV. And I don't even know, how did it even do that? It just knows how to do that. Great. Okay, that's a tool that is that's in the PGSQL. And now it's going to verify the data. So we'll run that there. So one thing that I like about GitHub Copilot Agent Mode is that it does do a lot of like reflection and verification. Like even when you're doing like Python and you've got like local PyTest, it'll go and like run the PyTest and be like, hey, do the test still work? If not, like it tries to really keep iterating. And so here it says, okay, it looks like it was successfully loaded. We've got 6,000 observations. We've got 902 unique species. And it says it's now, ready for queries, right? So now I can go back to my extension and I'll go ahead and then let me see, just refresh. Let's see, can I refresh here? One thing that sometimes I have issues with is the refresh. So in that case, this is something they're working on now. I just do a disconnect and a reconnect. And there we go, we can see it. I'm gonna go ahead and visualize the schema. And we can see that it made, it made the schema with the latitude and longitude, and then it made a special column that it came up with called location, which is geometry. So now going back to agent mode, I'm gonna say like, okay, what are the top insects observed in Pittsburgh, or like we'll say maybe like within 5 miles of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So here I'm relying on it knowing the coordinates for Pittsburgh, which generally I don't think you should rely on an LLM to know coordinates. I think it would be better to use a geocoding server. So what I could do is like bring, GitHub Copilot supports MCP servers, so I could bring in a geocoding MCP server, and then it could use that to get like really reliable coordinates. However, Pittsburgh is a fairly well-known city, so this is probably correct. Like while it's going, we can just check PA latitude, longitude, 4079, 4079. Did it get it exact? I think it probably did. Here we've got decimal versus degrees, but so in this case, it was able to figure it out, but we could combine this with geocoding servers in order to, be able to handle any arbitrary address, right? Oh, and it got a SQL syntax error, so it apologized. Always a nice thing when your LLMs apologize. So then it's going to modify the query and redo it. I wonder what its issue was. Well, hopefully it figures that out. Okay, there we go. Thompson. Okay, yeah, and this is what I saw before. So when you're wandering around here, you're going to see that western honeybee, spotted lanternfly. Let's see. Do we got pictures here? Whoa, that looks like a tree. All right, let's see. I was testing this last night. Oh, there we go. That actually does look yeah. Because there's images in the CSV. But like it depends like which of the ones it like fools. That is a honeybee. That honeybee has had a hard time in life. But that is a honeybee, yeah. So, I love zebra swallowtail. Sorry, just a little, that's so great. It's a swallowtail next to a swallowtail with like, oh my God. Okay, sorry. Okay. So there we got back those results. It did the query. And once again, we can look at all of the queries that it did in our query history and be like, okay, so what was that actual query? So, here it used the latitude, longitude. It got back the radius. To be honest, I've actually never used PostGIS, so this is my first time seeing a PostGIS query, but I'm guessing that did a radius query there. So this is cool because like I actually haven't used this extension before. I use PGVector more often, so even though I'm new to this extension, I'm able to see like how to actually work with it. So we got back that, and it did all that. Okay, so we got all of that back there. All right. So then we've seen a lot of that integration. What I haven't showed you is how do you actually like make a new connection, make a new server. So one thing I like about this one is that they have a built-in function that can create a local Docker server. Because when I was talking with the team when they were developing it, I was like, listen, it's so annoyingly hard to like make a new Postgres server and then like use pgadmin locally. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just make it easy. So they added this thing where you can do a local Docker server. And so look at this, it checks if Docker is installed and then check if it's actually running, because those are the two big issues that people often have with Docker is like, do I have it? And is it actually successfully running? And then we can say like, okay, our connection name will be like, okay, local PG Docker 2, Docker 2, okay. And that'll use the same container name. I just use the default password, which is Postgres. And it can save the password in the VS Code secrets. So that means it's not going to be saved in plain text. So VS Code does have a special mechanism for saving secrets, which is not plain text. Since some of you can also connect to a production database using this, similar UI. We can say which database we want. And then there's also advanced. So you can change the port. You can also change the image. So I had to use this when I was doing the PostGIS because I'm on a Mac M1, which is an ARM device, and the default wasn't working just because of the complexities with installing onto the ARM. So I found a Docker image that was optimized for PostGIS on the Mac and changed that image name there. So sometimes that's useful. Most times you could just go with the default Postgres and be okay. All right, so then we can go and say create. And so that's going to go and run a bunch of Docker commands to make that. And we can see that. And presumably, if I went to my Docker and my actual Docker desktop and looked, we actually see the containers that I've made, right? So these are all containers that were made from the extension. And then we can just mess with that the way we were doing before. You can also just do a connection to any arbitrary server that you have, right? So that would be the add new connection button. So you could connect with parameters, right? You could connect with a connection string. If you just have that whole connection string, you just paste it in. If you are connected to Azure, then you can browse Azure. And then, so here I'll be like, okay, there's my subscription. Here, I don't even remember which resource groups it's in. Let's see. Did I put it here? I have a lot of ones, but that's not the one I wanted. But I already actually have it connected. So I already have it connected here. But this is what you would do is you'd find your database and then it would set up the connection. You could test it and save it. So there I have the an Azure one connected. Now, when you have an Azure Postgres server connected, you have even more functionality because you can actually query the Azure Postgres information and get information about your Azure server. So that's another advantage is that if you can totally use this extension for Postgres on other servers and with local Postgres. But if you are using Azure, obviously this extension is from Microsoft. We want to make it easy to use that. So once again, we can go ahead and say chat with this database. And that says, okay, how can I assist you? So I'm like, all right, what are the compute and storage requirement, capabilities of my server, okay? So it's gonna connect and actually, this is a bug that they actually reported to the Copilot team where sometimes you see the system message like in the actual prompt. It's gonna still work. It's just funny that you can see system message. So this just has to do with how Copilot agent mode is implemented. And now you can like kind of see behind the matrix there. So you can see like what it's actually doing, right? We're like querying to figure out some stuff and then we get back the results. So it says like, okay, this is how big your database is. You're running a smaller one. Do you want me to do anything else? And be like, okay, well, what extensions are in my allow list? So these are the extensions I'm allowed to enable. Postgres extensions, so we can connect there. And we're seeing that system message. You know what I want to do actually is I'm going to switch models. So I've been using Claude 3.5 Sonnet the whole time. But I've been recommended to use the GPT-4 4.1. I think 4.1 or 4.0. They all kind of handle tool calling slightly differently. So I bet we wouldn't see that as much with that. Wow, look at all. Oh yeah, so this is the output. We're actually seeing the output stream back. That is being streamed back to the agent. And so you can see that that's coming back with these are all like the possible extensions that could be enabled on an Azure Postgres server.
Oh, I hear we need to ban a white
PG surgery, PG DiskANN. So DiskANN, has anyone heard of DiskANN? Okay, so DiskANN, okay, so with PGVector, a lot of times I use PGVector. PGVector is useful if you want to do vector search, vector similarity. It can do efficient vector similarity using the HNSW algorithm or the IVF flat algorithm. Those are the two big algorithms that people use. Generally, HNSW is better if you're going to be doing like a lot of updates of the data. Otherwise, you could use IVF flat. Now, DiskANN is another algorithm that came out of Microsoft Research because they're trying to do like super efficient vector search. And I don't exactly understand how it works because it's kind of on the hardware level. Like they figured out a way of making even more efficient vector search. And they've started bringing DiskANN to all of the different Azure properties. So you can do it with Azure Postgres, you can do it with Cosmos, etc. So it's another algorithm for efficient vector search. And so you'd have to enable it, and then you'd be able to use it. Okay, so if I got back the response and says, all right, this is what you currently have. You've got PG cron, PG off. There's some Azure specific ones. And then it says, what you could do. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Oh, let's just say we could change to a different model. But okay, can the PGVector extension be installed? Let's see.
Fine. And
Okay, it says it's on there. I'll say yes. I was having issues getting to actually do it. I think that my servers are actually set up with certain roles so that it was not able to do it. Oh, it worked this time. Wow. That's actually never worked for me. That's great.
so
I don't know why it worked this time. That's great. I thought my Postgres server was set up in a super strict permissive way. So it was actually able to run that on the server. And that's the idea, is that not only can you get information about your servers, but you can actually run SQL queries remotely as well, right? So yeah, that is a lot of what I wanted to show. Went through that kind of quickly. I'm happy to show anything after that I skipped over or went quickly. But basically, it's a very full-featured database extension, and it gets you that additional Copilot integration and the tighter Azure integration, and that would be the reason to move to it. If you do have the previous Postgres extension from Microsoft, as you can see, was rated 1.5 stars. So that was apparently not a very good extension and was a bit embarrassing for all of us. This is now considered deprecated. So we want everybody who's using that old one to go ahead and move over to the new one, which currently has a whopping 5 stars out of 8 reviews. So we'll have to see how those even out over time. But yeah, we're hoping that this is a much better experience and give us a good basis. So once again, please do download it, try it, and then if you have any issues at all or ideas about how to make it better, just go ahead and post in this issue tracker here and share your feedback with us. All right, thank you everyone.